Hello, hello, hello. Welcome on in. We're still in our sessions drawn by the book Date Like Cleopatra. The good girl flips a script, trying to figure out where the camera is. By me, Shiro and Ndune. So today we're talking about pleasure in the bedroom. Why and what does this have to do with dating? Well, probably just about everything. As girls, we probably have this conversation in our heads. I'm guessing we all have this. At the point when you're thinking about being intimate with someone the first time, how, where, what, when, should, would, could, all that kind of stuff. And even within the relationship, even if it is marriage, there are conversations still that can be had with ourselves. Do I want to? Do I have a choice? Is this something that I can control? And I like this especially. my, my voice isn't completely back, mostly, but not completely. I like this topic especially when thinking of younger girls. Why? Because who led us? Who taught us? Who held our hands when we were having these conversations with ourselves and told us that there are things to think about? So I just have a couple of points here. And the first one is negotiating pleasure. Bear with me. Bear with me. But let's unravel it because that's really part of the conversation. We are not really taught that the act, I need a word for it, not to get flagged on YouTube, but call it schmex. Schmex. I've heard someone on YouTube say that. So schmex. If we call it schmex, you're not. First of all, the society we live in teaches us that everything you're doing is for the pleasure of the man. So some of what we are taught, and especially younger, is from media, from videos, from movies, from everything, is that one of the reasons to put out is to ensure that you get the man. And it's only when we get older, when you're my age, then you know that all of that is fallacy, none of that matters. But I imagine with the younger girls who are now first getting into this, so this is to you now, you, my young girls who are thinking about this, understand that this perception that everything is done for the man's pleasure is not true. You, would you know? And this is for everyone listening, have a right to enjoy yourself. If you're not enjoying yourself, you don't have to be there. There's nothing forcing you to be there. You actually have a voice and you can actually dictate and say, this for me is what I want or I don't want. Because again, it's not that we are slaves. As women, we are not sexual slaves to be there for the pleasure of other people. That our role is just to lie flat and wait our turn and have it done with. It reminds me of the book, The Maiden's Tale. I haven't watched it, but I've read the book. And in that book, it's a book about a society where women were really oppressed. And there is the notion of really it's a slave, but it's a girl who is reproductive because apparently the vast majority of the society, the women are, I think even the men probably, but either way, the women are unable to have children. So what they do is that they get young girls to sleep with their husbands and bear their children. So this is just that story. What that means or not, and whether or not it happens in society, because it has. You have had situations such as those in society, including the Bible. But in moving aside, getting away from that, what the imagery I've had in my head is this: that when that young girl is really the slave, let's call her what she is, when this slave is being used for purposes of pregnancy, she's being held by the man's wife, such that it can be symbolic to show that this is the man's the woman's child. So the couple, it's a couple, husband and a wife, and then they have this slave girl. So it is symbolic to show that it is this couple's child because then both of them were involved and this girl was just a conduit. It seems very sad, but and unfortunately, such stories stem from real life, I guess. I have gone on a complete tangent. Coming back. That one was to talk about negotiating pleasure. So you're not that slave girl. You're not there. Your purpose in life as a woman is not to procreate. Your purpose in life as a human being is to live. You are here to live. And you are, at least in 2025, enabled to live life on your own terms to a larger extent than had been there in the past. And part of that is being able to negotiate your own pleasure. Part of that is being able to know what is pleasurable to you. So again, something else that we are not taught. How do you know what you like and what you don't like in bed? How do you figure that out? So the guidance, I have a resource here that I quite like. It is called OMGS. It's a website, omgs.com. It has a charge. It has a you pay like one fee to be able to access the content. But I really like it because what it has is like a compilation from so many different women. Because whoever it is who created this, saw that there is a lack of info for women. There is a lack of understanding of what could we possibly like. There has been years and years and years of assuming that Schmex is for the purpose of men. And so a lack of real information on what is out there. Because if you don't know what is out there, you might not know that this is something that could potentially be of interest to you. So they have a lot of women who actually go there, they speak, they give they even show. So different tips, different things, and they give words. That for me was one of the really beautiful things as well. They give words to things, because if there's something that you found that you like, how do you describe it? What do you say? We've been taught to be shy about a lot of these conversations. So we have no words, we have no descriptors, we have no heaven knows what. So if you are engaging for the first time with some guy, how do you explain to him that I like it when you do this? What is this? What is the word for this? So they've invented words that make sense. I can't remember any of them off the top of my head, but it's like describing the motion, describing the. I remember there was like a start stop. So different things. They're just different ideas, which were. I really liked it because it's opening. It's mind opening. Um, that was now my notes are jumbled because I've been telling you stories. Now to remember where I was in. I was on negotiating pleasure, and one of the notes I have here is, do you want him? And especially now going back to the young girls that I started with, if this is, I don't even want to call it a dare. If it's a dare, especially like from him, if the guy in your life is the kind of guy who tells you that, oh, if you don't do this, I'm not interested in you. When you're slightly older, you understand that that is a sign. That is a sign that you should run for the hills. No one, absolutely no one should put you in a position that makes you feel pressured. It's said a little in the media, but I think it's not said enough. You will know when you feel that this is something that you want to do. And you will know it from within yourself. You don't have to be told by anyone else. And if you feel it's taking a little too long, engage with yourself still. So we talk about this a lot on this channel, how to get a little more in touch with yourself. So get in touch with yourself so that what you're doing is something that stems from you. Because the tragedy of what we see is I'm emphasizing the young girls, but it's not only the young girls. It happens really across age, because these are conversations we don't have that often. Think of pregnancy scares. If you've ever had a pregnancy scare, then it is of paramount importance you ensure you don't have another one. It's not as easy. It's not as it doesn't help to cross your fingers and hope for the best. No, then you must learn, you must step forward, you must choose yourself. Actually, that's the point. You must choose yourself. If you had a pregnancy scare, that means that you did not feel yourself in a position to have a child. And if that's the case, truly it is upon your shoulders. This sounds highly anti-feminist, but it is upon your shoulders to determine how your future pans out as far as having children with the person that you had the scare with. The fact that it's a scare probably means that you do not feel comfortable with that person, or possibly means maybe you don't feel comfortable with your financial situation, maybe you don't feel comfortable about a couple of things, and it will be your burden If at all you have a second scare that turns out to be a positive on the strip, then it does become your responsibility. Whatever it is that scared you, if it was the partner, if it was your finances, if it was your future, whatever it is upon you to determine what goes forward. Because unfortunately, where we are in society today, that's a burden we have. But also, it's your body, it's your future, it's your, I want to call it the word I wanted to say is psychology. That's not the right word, but your mind space. You're going to be truly affected by this, however it goes forward. So all of this to say that if it's happened before, figure it out. Truly, we have the internet, we have a lot of resources. Figure out a means that works out for you so that you do not find yourself in the same situation again. Yeah. And also consider the potential father of the child. Is this someone who you're comfortable procreating with? Truly, unfortunately, we have a lot of guys out there who, and it's because of this context that I'm speaking about. There are a lot of people out there who should generally not be parents. And that might be you as well. We are told that women have this special need and desire and what, it's inbuilt in the DNA to become mothers. But really, you see parents, mothers and fathers outside there who probably should not have been parents ever. So it's again breaking down these beliefs that we have in our minds. In our minds, if you have been taught that you must be a mother, but also again don't feel it within yourself, you might have children who you mistreat, or who you might be unhappy on account of going through with that plan which was never yours in the first place. So this is again about putting yourself at the center of your life. You don't need to live a life based on what other people have said. What do you want? But that was the side note. The main note was to be on the father of the child. So to end up in a situation where you become a baby mama for some guy who never really cared in the first place and mistreats you when he's there, you don't have to fall down that path. Many have, and it's unfortunate, and we're not blaming them. We're not here to judge anybody, but we're saying that you have your life in front of you. Don't go through it with the blinkers. The blinkers are the ones they put on horses so that you don't see what's happening to the other women around. It has happened to them. It can happen to you. Feel empowered is truly the message of this video. Feel empowered to make a decision about your own life, because that is what that is. And children come from schmecks. So not to think it's so far-fetched so that it was a one-off or that I didn't expect this to happen. Think it through. Think it through and have the plan. Have some form of protection that you're going to be using on account of this. Okay, that was the second one. Here I had, do you want him? But then I also asked, do you want schmecks at that point in time? You are absolutely allowed to decide that you don't. And it's important to your body to honor what it feels like doing. So if it does not feel like doing this, then don't. You can feel like it now and not feel like it later. It's fine. Emily Nagoski talks about the accelerator and the brake. She's the author of Come As You Are. So she talks about the accelerator and the brake, meaning that within our systems, our nervous systems, we have systems. We have, let's call them systems which are operating. So one of them is accelerating, meaning that it's scanning the not horizon, the environment, scanning the environment to see whether or not you should be turned on and looking for markers that say, yes, 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 we should be a go. Then the other one is scanning the environment for the exact opposite reaction, trying to say that we should not. We should not. So she says that this is the kind of thing that makes everything, the systems shut down if, say, someone walks in. If you were in the middle of the act and someone walks in, and then you just lose everything that you had. So it's that kind of systems going on within you. So it could be that your break is on at a particular given point in time. It's important to understand what your breaks are, but then what happens if your break is on, meaning that you've been scanning the environment and have come up with a no, 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 we are not going to do this. It's difficult to then get the turn on. So it could be that it could be that it's an absolute no. As we said, if someone had walked into the room, that just goes down. That just goes, and that's it. You're no longer interested anymore. Or it could be that you're then trying to force something. It's like a car. You have the accelerator and the brake on, or it's it is not efficient in getting you where you want to be. So if you can figure out the things that act as no's to you, and they could be, think about it. Maybe there's I'm going to give an example that's maybe a bit much, but maybe okay, I'll just give it noise. If you can hear your neighbors through the wall, then your presumption is that the neighbors can also hear you through the wall, and that might make you shy. So that then becomes a break because you do not want your neighbors to be hearing what you're doing. That becomes a break. So then the questions become, how do you get around that? These could be conversations to have, or you could discover other places in your home. But being aware that these are things that inhibit you, and again, it's not known, it's not something that you're thinking about in your mind at front center, and that you're aware that this is what's going on. It's just within your system, that things that make you feel that you are not in the mood, if I put it that way. And there's context as well. Maybe you've been having arguments, and then now you're told that let's do this, and you're like, no. And all of this is to say that you have the right to say no. You do not have to conform. And I'm saying this and I'm emphasizing this because, especially in the Kenyan society, these are not things we're told, these are not things we hear. The things we hear is that, oh, once you get married, you must just make yourself available all the time. Why? You're still a human being. Being a wife doesn't mean that you are less valuable. You are a human being with all the rights. You do not have to be used. Okay, I am belaboring that point. Oh, those were my points. I'm allowed to belabor it. I see that I've gone through them in different ways. In different ways. So I hope this has been helpful, and I hope this has been interesting. Mostly, what I hope you get out of this is your right to be, your right to have a choice, your right to oh, I forgot to change that one. Like, subscribe, and tell a friend. Your right to choose who to engage with, when to engage with them, how many times to engage with them, that your no is valid at any point in time. If you want to say no, say the no. It's fine. No one's, it is your right. It is your right. We are told all these stories about leading men on as though that would kill them. No, blue balls don't kill anyone. No. So you have the right. You stand up for yourself. In talking about this book, Date Like Cleopatra, The Good Girl Flips the Script, we are talking about finding our self-confidence, finding our self-love, putting ourselves at the center of our lives. And we can do this in the bedroom as much as in the rest of life. And pleasure is super important. There is a book, can I say this? I'll just say it. Pussy, a Reclamation by Regina Thomas Shore. I don't know how to pronounce her second name. And it talks about pleasure, and it talks about how important pleasure is for the woman, and that the veiling of the sexual act in favor of the man, making it look like the woman is just a passenger, has been a means of controlling women's access to pleasure. Because if we're doing this for other people's purposes, and also reading, what's her name? Well, I've just forgotten her name, but yeah, I was looking for a name again. Okay, fine, I've forgotten it. But talking about pornography, and how, especially this truly violent depiction of Schmecks, as far as women are concerned, something that has been portrayed as being completely for the advantage of the man. And unfortunately, this becomes what the younger generations are learning, both men and women. So, being taught, boys and girls, being taught that this is how it should be. I heard somewhere that you have a number of incidences of ER visits, which come from kids who are trying these things out, kids, whatever age. So, it's highly unfortunate that this is the messaging as opposed to erotica, is what is said in that book, whose author I've forgotten, as opposed to erotica, which is meant to be the portrayal of an actual storyline and an actual thing that is happening. This easy access to porn is like, she was calling it like propaganda. That is the word she used. Propaganda being used to depict women as, I don't know. I don't know what word to use, but depict women, and not just to teach. That's what propaganda does. To teach that this is the nature of schmecks, such that even people who are starting for the first time, this would be the only point of reference. And by people, I mean even you and me. Where did you get your first information from? Where did I get mine from? In fact, I remember, I know I was meant to end, but just a quick story. I remember having this conversation with someone, and he was very interesting. He said that he was describing a couple, and so the boys talk. Yeah, boys talk. So he was describing the schmectual relationship between the couple. And the feedback he gave was that, or how he described it was that the girl did not know what to expect, what range to expect. So he described it as being like having a cake in a dark room. So a completely blacked out room, there's no light, and there's a cake. So when she gets there, where the cake is the pleasure. So when she gets there, she has a slice of cake and she enjoys it because she thinks it's great and she thinks that's all there is. But it turns out that it's like a huge room with, well, huge, it's like a very big room with a very big cake. And what she tasted at the end where she started was like I want to say the remember, for my Kenyan audience, remember the queen cakes they used to have in the shop? I don't know if they still have them, those really dry queen cakes. It's a cake, but there's nothing spectacular about it. And then as you progress towards inside the room, towards the rest of the cake, it then just gets flavors, and it gets the cream, and it gets the chocolate and the black forest and the, what other cakes are there? I don't know. Fudge. So it gets a lot of complexity in terms of style and tastes and everything. But because when she comes in, all she knows is the queen cake at the front, this really dry thing, it's enjoyable, but she doesn't know how much more there is. So it was very interesting imagery to me that it's used to describe the fact that we, none of us, know what to expect, especially when you're starting off. And even wherever it is you are now, maybe you've reached the Black Forest part of it. And as you go in, there's heaven knows what other flavors are available. And yeah, yeah, and I'll leave it at that. There is a lot to be said, of course, about communication, and I think I mentioned that in my previous video. Communication is the one that will enable a greater experience of the cake. I should have started with that imagery, then we'd have been calling it cake throughout. But again, as I said, you don't know what to communicate if you don't know what you like and what's out there. So look out for resources. Emily Nagoski, Come As You Are, Date Like Cleopatra. This one doesn't talk about this topic in detail, but it talks about self-confidence and self-love and how to be able to have the wherewithal to come to the table and discuss this and have the kind of partner with whom you feel that you can discuss this, because that's what Dating Like Cleopatra is all about. It's about putting yourself at the center, being important. Okay, now I've said it too much. Fine. I keep leaving and never going. I enjoy your company as always. Thank you. We'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye, gorgeous.